guys, it's Danny. Alrighty, today we're gonna answer a few more viewer questions sent in by you guys in the comment section of my videos. I think it's already been a week since our last Q&A, so let's get started. Samantha is asking if Phalaenopsis can share water like a Van does. Practically all orchids can share water. You can use the same quantity of water with all of your orchids. You can absolutely do that. Pretty much you can do whatever it is that you want. But here's the risk. If you share water, you share pathogens as well. If you have a weird pathogen that might not affect one of the orchids because she's strong, and it passes to a not so strong orchid, it will attack it. With my Vandas, I take this risk and I soak them in a few containers, not only one. I have 20-something Vandas, and to soak them separately, it's a little bit impossible. So I do assume the risk of transferring disease. I try to limit it as much as possible, but I cannot fully limit it. And that's the risk that I am taking. I'm well aware of it and I am okay with it. If you're not okay with transmitting pathogens, then don't do it. If you're okay with it, then do it. A viewer that I shall not pronounce the nickname of asked me if different orchids bloom at different times of the years. Yes, totally. That is all of the appeal of having a varied collection of orchids. Many orchids just bloom at different times of the year. Some orchids just bloom whenever they want throughout the year. The more variety you have, the more chances you have to get blooms at all times of the year. Phalaenopsis usually bloom in late winter to spring, but Cattleyas can bloom in summer. Vandas, yet again, can bloom in the warmer months. Oncidiums, Miltoniopsis, they can bloom in the autumn. But for most of them, it's not necessarily a written rule. If they're continuous growers, they can pretty much bloom at any time. So yes, the short answer to your question is yes. Another viewer is asking me if we can blame the medium for complete loss of roots within a week on a Phalaenopsis orchid. Okay, so I think yes and no. Let me explain. No, if you're thinking you suffocated the roots or that the orchid didn't like the medium itself necessarily because of its structures, no. Usually orchids show signs in more than that. You can have an orchid compacted in sphagnum moss and the roots can remain alive for a month before they start to die off. It's a slower process. So from that point of view, in a week, no, there isn't enough time for the roots to get suffocated or things of the sort. But yes, if the medium was toxic or poisonous to the orchid, that's a whole different story. And what do I mean by this? Maybe it was leaching out something that the orchid didn't like. Excessive acids, excessive, I don't know, you know, that sap, that coniferous trees tend to put out. I'm a little lost for words here, sorry about that, but yeah, it can be blamed if it is indeed not suited for orchids. If you have other orchids growing just fine in that medium, then the chances that it's toxic are very, very slim. Case in which we can conclude that the orchid was previously attacked or suffered from something, and it was just time for it to lose its roots and the medium has nothing to do with it. So think about your context. The only possibility in which I see the medium affecting the roots so fast is that if indeed it was leaching out something. So try to find out if that's the case. Yasin is asking about the stringy root inside the velamen. And to answer your question, yes and no, yet again. So the only orchid that I've seen keeping her roots alive, even if it had sections of the roots which were totally rotted, was the Phalaenopsis orchid. I'm pretty sure other orchids can do it too, mostly the ones that have very, very fleshy roots, like maybe Vanda orchids or related orchids. So yes, in the case of Phalaenopsis, even if you have parts of the velamen mushed out and missing, you can still have that string, the actual root itself, being able to survive and absorb moisture. But when the entire velamen is completely gone, the root itself cannot survive. So only that string without any velamen from beginning to end, that one cannot survive. But parts of it, if the velamen goes bad, it's completely fine. However, if we talk about Cattleyas or Dendrobiums or other things, no, I didn't really see that happening with any other orchid, specifically with the orchids with very fine roots. So if your orchid seems hydrated and you have patches of dead velamen, but the patches that are okay still green up, then chances are the orchid gets hydrated and the root itself is perfectly fine. But as I was saying, I have only noticed this with Phalaenopsis mainly and orchids which have very thick roots. With Oncidiums and other stuff, no, not really. Alrighty then, so Kate Young is asking about a Dendrobium kingianum. How to know if it's a kingianum or a Berryota without flowers? I don't think you can. I tried in the past and it really wasn't all that accurate. I think the best thing to do is just to wait for the flowers. And when it comes to Semihydro and the Kingianum and the Baryota, they both work. Here's the thing with Semihydro. Everybody thinks it's very, very moist. It's a very moist environment. It can be, yes, but it depends on many factors. First of all, you have to keep it moist. And the way you arrange that reservoir depends on your environment. If you'd like it to be more moist because you have a hot or dry environment, you put the reservoir high. If you put the reservoir very high in a cool environment, that's gonna spell super moisture and pretty much trouble. However though, because the leca beads are just so chunky, these are very chunky pieces, they keep a lot of space filled with air in between them. So the setup is actually very airy as well. So if you maintain this setup with big leca pieces, round, not any other shape, you will have the most air you can in between the spaces. The Kingianum is a lithophite, or can be a lithophite. The Baryota, since it's a Kingianum hybrid, is very similar and enjoys quite a lot of air. So the moisture is really up to you and your control and how you set it up. Practically, pretty much any orchid can go into Semihydro, specifically epiphytic orchids. Terrestrials have issues, at least for me, because they don't like that much air. In Semihydro, as wet as it can be, it's also very, very airy and it's not suited for all terrestrials. Some like it, depends on the plant, on the orchid and so on. But when it comes to epiphytic orchids, they do enjoy Semihydro because of the quantity of air. The tricky part is to get the moisture right as well, and that has to do with a little bit of thinking beforehand. Think about your environment, do some tests. I did quite a few tests with a few orchids before deciding to move a lot of them, so trial and error, nothing wrong with that. But in theory, Semihydro, being so airy, can work even with Kingianum and Baryota and whatever other orchids enjoy air. And I will make a test with a Vanda one day, I promise that. I don't have a test with it, and personally I have issues with potted Vandas, but Semihydro is different. Anyway, I think I blabbed too much. Yes, Semihydro is definitely suited, at least in theory, for any epiphytic orchid, any litophytic orchid, any orchid which enjoys a lot of air, or an orchid that enjoys a lot of moisture. Tricky part is how you set it up. Lisa is asking where I get my white pots for Semihydro, and I know a few of you guys have asked. Well, I find them in my local flower shops or even garden centers. They are decorative pots. So when you have a section with those beautiful ceramic glazed pots, you should have a section for plastic pots as well, at least here in Europe. So what these are is just decorative pots that I customized with some holes, but you're not confined necessarily to these pots. Some of the containers that I use, I purchased them from supermarkets and they just look like they could do a good job. They're bowls or other types of containers. You can find all sorts of colors and so on and so forth. I'm not entirely sure what to recommend. Just try to visit garden centers and flower shops, and if not, just be creative about it. If you want something similar, I'm sure there is a container somewhere that looks similar and does a perfectly good job. Cindy is saying she has an orchid from the store that has a blue dye injected into it, and if I think the orchid dye will be detrimental and will kill the orchid. No, the dyes they use on the market are actually pretty safe for orchids, and overall I didn't hear anybody complaining of their orchid dye. So I think they're just food dyes or safe dyes. The only thing you will observe is that the orchid will rebloom white. Speaking of that, I did make a sort of an experiment. I did color one of my Phalaenopsis just to show the process somewhat. I'll link you down below in the description if you would like to see it. I used food dye. As it turns out, food dye is not so friendly to orchids. So what happened was it killed the flower spike. But the orchid was perfectly fine, so if that food dye did not kill my entire orchid, even though it was detrimental to it, I wouldn't worry about the dyes they use in the market. They use other dyes, safer dyes. I don't think you should worry about it, but just beware the orchid will rebloom white, most probably. And that has to be about it for today's Q&A. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see each other next week, probably with another Q&A. So if you do have questions, leave them down below in the comment section and I'll try to answer to as many as I can. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. You know the drill. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it and a thumbs down if you hated it. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!